Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, and welcome to another wonderful episode of the Saturday Morning D&D Show. My name is Jordan, with a silent PH in the middle, and I am joined always by my wonderful co-host, Sir Lucian, over at Sir Lucian Gaming. Say hello, sir.
Hey. Hello, everybody. Sorry for the green screen again, although it did happen on another Zoom meeting we did, so we know it's not our equipment.
And I saw the green this time.
Yeah,
and it was,
I blame Zoom.
Both of us, it was a different person.
Mm-hmm.
So but it was the person hosting it, but no, you were hosting it before, and I was turning green. So it's
and
just
now
random.
you're hosting today, so it's just something weird.
Something weird.
It's weird that I've never seen mine go green.
Yeah, well,
it's always yours.
Come on over to YouTube where we don't have green screens.
No
it's
green
all wonderful.
Screens.
It's fantastic. Yes, Invisible Sun Camera. I have been reading The Threshold. I don't think Lucian saw this, but I bought this a while ago.
Ooh.
And I wanted to talk about this briefly because a couple of things about Invisible Sun is I want to start an Invisible Sun game, and I don't know if it's going to happen until mid-vaccines are kind of, and like we get over this herd immunity peak that seems to be happening right now. So I put this on hiatus, but I did start reading this, and I think this is a really interesting book because it is technically a narrative kind of novel. But it has a story that takes place in the world of Invisible Sun. And so when you read this, it's got characters, locations, and scenarios that you are encouraged to steal and put into your game. And I thought that was really creative because, we have a lot of Forgotten Realms novels and things like that. But I've never seen this is specifically for a game, like a game master, so that they can read it and get excited and then steal a bunch of ideas and use it. But it's truly narrative. Like there's a leading character and he's going on a journey, and it's really kind of fun. So I was reading that last night and now that I'm not doing a video every day, I can go things like read books, and it's really nice.
You have some other time.
So it's a quality book. I so far I'm really enjoying it, and it's got a whole section in the very back of like, so you read this, how are you going to use this for your Invisible Sun campaign? A game that I am secretly obsessed with, openly secretly obsessed with. Yes, we are a D&D talk show. We don't have a lot of news to talk about today, but we do have a few things. Lucian really wanted to point out that we could do the entire show as Bernie Sanders memes. And so maybe
that's the big thing.
We'll just put Bernie Sanders in all sorts of situations. And the Critical Role one was pretty good, though. So
I like that one.
Behind the Matt Mercer screen, and he's just like, how do you want to do this? It's very funny.
Yeah, I saw the one where he's sitting on Strahd's throne. Curse of Sanders, Curse of Bernie.
That's good. It's good.
There's been a couple of really good ones out there.
Baldur's Gate Descent into Bernie? I don't know.
Yeah.
Something that caught my eye is there's a Kickstarter coming out in February. And this is not sponsored or anything, but this is a really cool product. And I feel kind of dumb because this company contacted me and said, hey, we want to send you some prototypes so you can like talk about it. And I was like, that's awesome. And then they said, but you need to mail it back to us when you're done because we want to be able, like, these are really expensive and they're really precious. And I was like, okay, that's fine. And then they're like, what kind of coverage can you give us? And I'm like, I'm a lore channel. I'm not really about dice and things like that. Like, I want them, don't get me wrong, and I will mail them back. But at the same time, there's probably other people, if you have a limited supply. So I was really in their favor. And I'm like, if you have a limited supply, there's probably better people to hand these out to me. But they are Bluetooth LED dice. And it's called Pixels Dice. And you can go to pixels-dice.com. And again, not sponsored, but I just really like the idea. And so these are wireless charging, so they have a little pad that they stand on and they charge. And he says that the charge lasts for 1,000 rolls. And if you and you can program it with your phone. So if you roll a 20, it'll like boo, light up and all this other stuff. If you roll a 1, it'll go all red. And I guess from what I saw, there's a little speaker in there too. So you could actually program it so when it rolls a 4, it'll say 4, And right now they've got D20s, but they're working on getting every type of die possible. So D6s, well, the whole gamut, but probably pricey. I have no idea on how expensive those are. But they're really cool. So, would you?
That
I mean,
you're
2021.
Yeah, that sounds technology based. I like that.
Do you roll physical dice at all, or are you does Roll20 just suit all of your dice needs?
I mean, during the COVID-19 stuff, yeah, I think I've rolled more virtual dice than anything. But conventions definitely like to bring bags of dice. We've played sitting at a table a couple of times at conventions, rolled some dice, rolled some actual dice. So I don't get to roll them as often. So I like using the Roll20 dice, and I like how in Roll20 you have virtual dice that roll across the screen and stuff, and does all the math for you, which is cool. I think that's, eventually where we could get to with a pixel dice. Imagine if, because it's Bluetooth, you could put in all your modifiers, and so it just rolls, and then it just has a screen on the top, and it says, "Oh, you rolled 25 to hit because of your your strength, whatever."
It would be cool if you could tie that dice roll to Roll20, so I could roll a physical die, and then when it came up 7, that 7 was translated over to Roll20, and so your friends could all see it, but you're still rolling physical dice. That could be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But
I think there is something to having physical contact with the tabletop game while you're playing a tabletop game that is really fun and that you miss when you're playing a virtual game. Now, I still love virtual tabletops, and I love getting together with my friends. There's a lot of pluses to that, but there is the one thing that I think missing is that ability just to pick up tactile tools and roll them and watch them do their thing. That is definitely missing, and I think that's one of the cooler aspects of being able to sit at a table with friends and play.
So someone in chat said that they actually use your phone speaker for sounds that you program. So, but still, I can't imagine. I mean, that's a lot of electronics to fit into a regular sided die.
Hopefully it's balanced.
They say they are, and apparently it's not overly heavy. It is lighter than most of the metal dice that you'll buy.
See, now metal dice,
but I don't use metal dice because I think they're too heavy. So.
Yeah. They're interesting. Well, I like the idea of bone and stones and gem, and when people put stuff in them and they do all the acrylic around them and they've got cool designs on the inside. There's like a whole art form to building dice and
that's
dice
coming out recently. I feel like the last 2 years, people are like, "Oh, you can do all kinds of stuff," and you're right. I don't know if if you put a small little rubber duck inside of a die, it looks cool. I don't know how balanced that is, but I also don't know if people really care. Like it's cool. You put it on your table or something, and it's kind of a fun novelty to have. But yeah, I know 2 or 3 people that are making dice right now, and they're beautiful. They're really cool. So it's one of those hobbies where you're like, this wasn't as difficult as I thought. You just have to get the molds and stuff, So.
I want a dice set that represents a trapped gelatinous cube or gelatinous oozes inside of them. So it's like the different oozes are represented on the dice. And so the 6-sider is your gelatinous cube, and maybe your 20-sider can be, the black pudding or something. And then like you could go do all the different oozes inside the acrylic dice. That's the set Lucian wants.
I mean, if we're talking about, I think we need Modron dice. Like you need the D4 Modron, the D. Cool. Well, they don't need feet, but like little eyes or something on them, because all of the Modrons are based off of different polyhedrals. I think. Yeah, you have the.
Or could you do little transformer dice that you could pull the little legs out and everything, but then it all folds up into it, and it's an actual dice shape, and you can roll it and
then you link it with your phone, so it makes the Transformers noise as you're built. No, okay.
But they're radio controlled. You can move them around on your desk. Let's just do this. We're in 2021. This shouldn't be that.
Where's my flying cars?
Where's my robots to play Dungeons and Dragons with me? They can sit around and be the different characters. And
they spend all this time making AI just so that they can call me about my car warranty, but they don't bother to have AI to play games with me.
I did hear that there is an AI DM site out there that they're working on right now, and they're testing it. It sounds like they're trying to get it to the point where somebody playing wouldn't know It's an AI running the adventure. And what the
What
way
do they call that?
they're
The Turing
doing
test? Is that what that is?
Yeah, the way they're doing it is they have a dungeon master person. He's reading the screen, and they're typing in what the players are saying on there's like a black screen between the player and the dungeon master. So the dungeon master just totally theater of mind, and he's reading from the screen, but he's getting everything from the AI. So every time the character says, well, I look around the room, is there any, what do I see? And that's what he types into the AI. I look around the room, what do I see? And the AI just spits out this whole dressing of what the room looks like, what's in there, what can they see, asks them to make a roll or something, and then the DM just kind of reads it off, and they wait to see how long before the player starts to say, wait a minute, or the AI makes such a mistake, because he reads exactly what the AI is saying, until the AI makes a mistake that the character's like, what? Wait, what did you just say?
You see a large open dungeon and destroy all humans. What?
Yeah.
What was that?
Yeah, what was that?
All right, kill this one. He's gone rogue again. It's crazy.
So I thought that'd be cool. So I think it's fun that somebody's working on it, and that it could be cool that eventually we have an AI good enough that could run your Dungeons and Dragons game. Imagine that for just a tiny second, Jordan. You could set up an AI that's going to run your nightly Wednesday game. You gather your friends, and the AI's good, and it runs a virtual Roll20 game for you and your friends every week.
So what if I want to run a game, but I don't have friends? Could I get AI
That's probably
players?
Next, AI friends.
And then
Yes.
I can run the game for my AI players. And then the nights that I can't make it, I'll have the AI Dungeon Master GM to my AI players.
I think that's
and then I can go do other things like mow the lawn or something.
Right. And your channel just has all this content. Imagine AI DM, AI players. You're good to go.
No, there was a joke that the future, like equating this to movies, that movie scripts are now these. We take an actor and we like build a script around him, and we kind of do these things that they're like technology will get to the point where when you go to the movies, you'll be presented with a kiosk and you'll be like, well, I kind of want a Tom Hanks and a Sandra Bullock romantic comedy set in Spain, and it'll generate the script, generate the actors, and you'll go walk into a randomly generated movie that is exactly what you want. So
yeah, and since it knows who you are, since of all the Google downloading it's been doing of all your data, it'll know the type of storyline you like, the type of payoff you like, the type of crescendo to the climax of the movie. They're like, this gets him every time. If we go 5 seconds of dun dun Inception music, he's just like, into it.
I love that. That Inception thing is so good.
Yeah. I can't wait.
Yeah, that's really funny. WizKids, again, knocking it out of the park. I got like a, can you see that? There's a big dragon behind me.
We could if it wasn't all green.
Oh, well, there's a big dragon behind me.
Go to YouTube, guys. Look at it
WizKids sent me that. It's like, they're one of their Pathfinder minis, but it's really cool. They are just knocking it out of the park with miniatures lately, and they partnered with Critical Role. And I don't know if this is part of their partnership with Dungeons and Dragons, because they're making a fleet of monsters that are specific for Wildmount, and I think they're the monsters that are in the Wildmount book. But that's kind of exciting. They're going to be making basically, if you're a fan of Critical Role and Wildmount and you're running a Wildmount game, you can pick up some of the monster miniatures, which is really cool.
Josh, do you think that's where, because I saw a kind of a meme going around for about 2 weeks where everybody on Facebook was creating characters of themselves in Hero Forge, right? So Hero Forge has gotten good enough that they can create really cool miniatures of either your D&D character, or some people were like creating themselves.
Oh, I totally made myself.
Something else.
Awesome.
Yeah. So you did all that. So that went around for about a couple of weeks. Do you think Hero Forge's next big push then would be like a monster creator, where you could then create and design your monster minis and then have them deliver them to you, just like they could your...
No, that sounds like the next step. That or set dressings. Like, I need to create a really cool throne, or I need to create, especially because, so Hero Forge is expensive. I love the company. I think it's really awesome. Yeah. But for them to print it and send it to you, I think way too expensive. But if you have a 3D printer, the STL files are only like $5 to $7. And then if I could design something really awesome and then print it out myself, it's really awesome. And a friend of my Dungeon Master just got a 3D printer, and we sent him a bunch of STL files that we got from Hero Forge, and he's like, oh, okay. And he printed a few of them, and they look really good. Like, it's fun.
Yeah.
So, and I don't know, with the color plastic that Hero Forge uses can be kind of brittle sometimes.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And because I think it's two different plastic colors that they have to then fuse together. So at those joints, it's not like a solid cohesion of plastic. I could be wrong. I'm not really sure. And I've heard this rumor that they can break, but if you're willing to paint your miniature, then you're fine. And I know a lot of people that actually prefer it to come blank so that they can paint it, or we'll print it ourselves so that we can paint it. But yeah, the set dressings would be really cool.
I was thinking about it almost made my 2021 list of goals, which was to do a Dungeons and Dragons Saturday morning D&D show STL files for, like, say, one monster a month or something, like one cool mini a month, and then put the STL files out there for people to pick up for, like, $2 or $3 or something, just for fun. Because I was looking at some of those programs to build those, and I was thinking, I could get into learning how to use this. I don't know quite how to use it yet.
Oh, like the drafting programs to
how to really create some really cool things. And, like, here's a gibbering mouther, here's a cool Cthulhu creature, here's a thing of this. And then those of us that, and that was one of the things I kind of wanted to buy this year was my own 3D printer.
Do it.
That was one thing I've been thinking about, having over here
They're
on the
so
side
cool
to do some stuff.
I kind of want one now too.
But that'd be kind of cool. And we could do something, themed around the Saturday morning D&D show.
Yeah,
so I thought that'd be
the
kind of cool.
Fey King Lucian.
I'm looking into
and Warlock Jorphdan, who can't say any words that have an F in it because of a silent PH.
Right.
I'm telling you, there's a market there. Our own campaign setting. But yes, Critical Role monsters, very exciting. Now that you say that, I don't think that Hero Forge will do custom monsters as much as, because there's so many companies that do, here are a bunch of Goblin STL files, or here's a bunch of, and when I say STL files, those are the 3D print files, I believe. So
yeah.
So I don't know that, but they got to keep expanding some way.
Well, what I think is unique about Hero Forge, though, is they've created an online designer that lets a person go in who doesn't know anything about STL files and just kind of create their character, adding things to it. So I meant more like that type of builder. Because if you could say, here's 50 different arms, here's 50 different torsos, here's all this stuff, and then you could go in and you could really create some different cool stuff, even unique monsters at that point, winged orcs, or whatever you want to get into, metal looking Kenku, or I don't know, like if there was a way to build those. I wonder if there was a market for Dungeon Masters to go in and say, this is something cool that I could add to my campaign setting. Because even just a screenshot of that works for the virtual tabletops, just to be able to say, hey, this is what you guys see coming down the hallway, and it could be that thing that's been created. It'd be kind of cool. So just a cool interface to be able to create stuff with.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. Hey, we did something on Wednesday that nobody knows about, really. But anyway, so friend of the show and occasional co-host, and probably petitioned to replace either myself or Lucian, LB Hakamo. She is going to run a Monster of the Week game, which is a really cool RPG. Kind of focuses more on story and specific stories like old Monster of the Week TV shows from the late 90s. They were popular in the 80s and 90s. X-Files, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, things like that. I've never played Monster of the Week. Have you?
No, I played a session 0.
Well, so that's what we did. We had a session 0 on Wednesday, and we went through it.
Other than that, no. This would be the
but
first time.
It's a fun game. It's powered by the Apocalypse, but I've never actually played a powered by the Apocalypse game either. Have you?
That I have played, and I have enjoyed quite a bit. I've played the hacks of them. I have not played the original game that it came from. But
which, I don't know if people are.
A New Generation is my favorite.
That's powered.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So I know that there's there's Dungeon World, which I've read.
Dungeon World.
And that was Powered by the Apocalypse. And the reason we say Powered by the Apocalypse is whoever wrote that system just gave it away for free. So it was the idea that anybody, it's open source. Anybody can take it and they can reflavor it, rewrite it, using all of those mechanics to make their own game. So that's why Masks has a Powered by the Apocalypse. And Dungeon World is Powered by the Apocalypse. Monster of the Week is Powered by the Apocalypse. So we are going to play a game. And we did a session 0 because, well, for a lot of reasons. But I feel that Monster of the Week really lends itself to needing a session 0, maybe not all Powered by the Apocalypse games, but definitely Monster of the Week, because we had to do a lot of creating relationships between all of us before you start playing, and you pick really fun characters. So one of us is going to be like a fey dryad creature that's living as or disguised as a human. I'm playing a creature called the Divine. So I'm a human, but I have some kind of like divine connection where I have to use the power of God, and it could be any god. I haven't actually decided on my deity of choice yet. But I follow their orders, and I'm trying to stop the apocalypse or something. And then we were talking to Lucian, and we're like, well, what do you want to be, Lucian? And Lucian, what did you decide to be?
I decided to be the normal, the mundane, the person with, Peter from, and it stemmed from Jordan a couple weeks ago was talking about Deadpool 2 and how they had that really normal guy who just kind of showed up to the superhero thing for a job. And they're like, so what superpower do you guys like? None. And they're like, you're hired. And I just thought that whole image was funny. So if they were going to play something fun and fantastic, then I thought, it'd be cool to be the mundane person right in the middle of all that. So it turned out to be really fun. That whole session was really funny, just talking to each other about where the characters were going to go or what our minds were thinking about the characters. How did they meet, or why would they meet, or what did they do when they did meet? And it was just like, we expected to maybe spend 30 minutes with LB that night. Like I thought in my head.
Well, that's what she said.
It would
She's
be quick.
She said it would be really quick, and then we ended up
chatting for like 2.5 hours later. We're like, yes, this is
chatted
great.
for a
and we're
long
like, okay,
time.
we got to go.
But yes, LB Hackemup is running it, and it's going to be, she's the equivalent of the GM, but it's not called that. I think you're a referee or a narrator or something. I can't remember. But she's running it. It's her own custom story she's creating. And part is we had to create our characters so that she knew where to take the story, which is kind of an interesting thing. So we're set in rural Montana, some made up town. I specifically asked if we could be within driving distance of Great Falls, Montana, so that we could say that I have been to the Sip and Dip Lounge from Great Falls, Montana, which is kind of a silly inside joke with some old friends, but a real place. Check it out. Piano Pat. She plays there every Friday.
And Dip.
The Sip and Dip Lounge, home of the mermaids in Great Falls, Montana. But yeah, so I'm a divine, but it's hilarious because yes, in the world of Dungeons and Dragons, you want to be powerful because your goal is to kind of attack and kill things, and get treasure and whatever. But in Monster of the Week, you could be a Xander from Buffy and be just as useful as a Buffy from Buffy. And so in this instance, like, I am very strong and I can attack things and I'm all this other stuff. And I've got like a sword of fire and all this crazy stuff. But I can't do certain investigation things. And some of your powers being like, I'm just a regular human that stumbled upon this. What? Aliens? This is ridiculous. But some of your powers are like discover the obvious, or like accidentally stumble upon something. Yeah. Easy. And from a narrative standpoint, that is fun and that is hilarious. And the more we were building these characters, I'm getting so psyched for this game. I think it's going to be really, and LB is fun. We asked her straight up how silly we could be, because we want to just kind of be like, we're silly people. And she's like, just have fun. I mean, obviously, whatever, we're not going to be totally zany. Like, I know I'm a clown, but and
you could,
really
if you wanted your theme of your game to be more serious, you could have a group that says, let's be a little darker, a little bit go the more X-Files route. There's a tiny, there is a tiny bit of humor in X-Files, but it is a darker subject. But then you go to Vampire Hunter, Buffy. There's a lot of humor in each one of those episodes. And then you can get even crazier when you're thinking of something like an Aki Inc. episode or something like that, where you get pretty zany and pop culture-y. Or Supernatural is the one thing she kept kind of leaning back on.
Yeah, and I've never seen
was a good example of the kind of game she wants to run.
Yeah.
So if you've watched that show, there's humor in there. They do tackle some stuff, but it's fun that we're going to pick a little bit more of a fun, upbeat kind of game. And to me, I'm thinking, Deadpool 3 in my head is the way, and that's all comedy, dark comedy, but it is comedy. So it's like, I just thought it was funny. And I thought it was one of the most enjoyable evenings probably in the last month or two, couple of months. I've had some really good D&D sessions here or there, but that one was just really fun, just brainstorming and creating and
meeting cool new people. We got two new fun players
people I've never met at all. It was really fun.
And they're also streamers on Twitch.
It's gonna be streamed on their channel, so when it actually kicks off, we'll definitely tell you guys about it, and then we'll when we come and talk about our shows, we'll be able to send you over to it.
And always, if you guys are like, when is things going to happen, or I forget about it, turn on the announcements in the Discord announcements channel, because nobody else can post there except my bots and me. But I'll post like, hey, I'm going live on Twitch, or hey, our game
LB
starts
says
now.
It's on her channel.
Yeah, it's on her channel.
It's on LB channel. Yeah. Okay.
So, but I'll post links of like where, I guess particularly I'm playing. So if you're interested in this game, but it will be Wednesdays at 6 or 5:30 Pacific. I think is when we're going to play on twitch.tv/LBHeck'emUp. So anyway, $12 a year for enemyforge.com. Nathan, you got to get it. I'm sorry. You got to, it's a gold mine. You got sitting on it right now.
So I'm definitely excited about it.
I'm very excited.
I like the mechanics to it are pretty simple. Dungeon Master doesn't really have to roll. They can focus on describing the action and what's going on, keeping everything moving, whereas the players are doing the rolls. We're doing 2d6 plus typically a stat. There's moves.
I mean, and it could be a minus stat, because you're...
And I like failing is where you get your XP. So, it's a bummer you failed. You didn't get to do the thing you wanted to do in that cool moment. But that's the way you're getting your XP points to be able to get more powers later on, or buff your character up later on, and that kind of stuff.
So
it's like
that
that really cool. Yeah, you get a reward for taking the chance, and I think that's good. But I also like a lot of times too the way the dice skew is you're going to get a lot of you've succeeded, but there might be a complication, or you've succeeded, but there might be something that's happened. I like the idea of that there's always, you got a good, but you're going to get a little bit of a bad here too. So I like that too.
Yeah, you're like, I'm running away from the guy, and it's like, okay, you get in the car and like you succeed, you get away from him, but you notice that you only have a mile of gas or something. Yeah. And it's like, well, now I got a new problem. And that's fun. And that is fun narratively and story-wise. And I guess the whole reason I wanted to bring this up is like, I love Dungeons and Dragons, but it is not the best at telling stories. And it's funny how there are all these really awesome systems, and partially this is, I'm reading Invisible Sun, and going back to when you get XP when you fail, I was listening to a whole thing about Numenera, and how the Numenera system is also very much designed to keep the story going. It has combat. It is not about combat. And I think Monster of the Week is the same thing. It's about where are we taking this? Kids on bikes, things like that. Although after reading Monster of the Week, I think that might handle what I was trying to do with Kids on Bikes a little bit better. I'm not sure, but I still like that system. And I don't know, it's kind of funny that we're like, D&D's popular. So people are like, well, if I'm going to make a show, I better make a D&D show so people watch it. And I'm like, I kind of want to run all these other games. But if I were to listen to a podcast, I'd love to listen to like a Numenera podcast, I think, because it would just flow a lot differently than a D&D one. But they're out there.
One of these days, maybe we'll have sections, and we'll do our D&D section. We'll do our Numenera section. We'll do our Powered by the Apocalypse section.
Yeah, one day we're going to have to change the show to just the RPG morning show or something. So
because I don't ever see not playing D&D because I love it.
Yeah.
But I do love the idea about talking about the other games that are out there, not just saying, I love reading all these other RPG books. I'm still doing Kickstarters on all those other RPG books. So, I mean, we even have a note coming up of a D&D RPG book coming. So.
Yeah, segue.
I'm still spending money on it.
Tolus. Speaking of Numenera, Monty Cook,
Dragons, yeah. So he created.
Tell us about this.
Yeah. So Tolus was a big city setting that back in 3rd edition, Monty Cook wanted to put out his kind of idea of the big city kind of adventure, or at least the big city campaign setting that you could put where your campaign it's so big, there's so much going on, you'd never really have to leave it. Even grander than I would say like a Waterdeep or a Baldur's Gate. I think it's on a much bigger scale than that. And the book is
and
like
vertical
gigantic.
Too.
Yeah. So there's a lot to it. So, but like a Megapolis style
a Ravnica
world or area that you're going to be adventuring in, something so big that it's, nearly country size or something like that. So he did that. He wrote up a book, and you can find that out there all over the place. You can get a copy of that in its 3rd edition version of it. I believe he created it in other, I don't know if 4th edition got an update to it, but the Kickstarter he put out last year was to bring that setting again back to 5e and back into the Cypher system so that you could play it with his system, which is, they call them Cypher Unlimited, is the system that runs Numenera, The Strange, and a few other ones, Gods of the Fall and something else. So they have several games that are based off their Cypher system RPG. And but I wanted the D&D 5e version of it because I've still, even though we got Ravnica, which was basically a book about a giant mega city, it wasn't big enough or deep enough for me to think about a giant mega city. I was able to pull a lot of stuff out of it, but I still didn't have enough tools to run a campaign that would be in a world-spanning city, something so big that it's crazy.
Yeah.
But I think this book will have that because it's something like 600 pages, or it's like insanely thick book, and that's going to be shipped out pretty soon. You can pre-order it. They've opened up pre-orders if you miss the Kickstarter out on their website. So you can go out there, and then I think they're going to start shipping here. I'm hoping pretty soon. And when I get that book, I'll definitely show you guys on the show because I think it'll be pretty cool.
Yeah. So something's on my foot. Okay, cat.
No, spider.
So specifically with Tolus, and I put a link in chat if you want to check out the Kickstarter. It's done now, but I'm all of Monty Cook's Kickstarters eventually make their way to montycookgames.com, and then you can purchase them there. They use the Kickstarter, like most game companies, to
to fund how many
people
initial
interested.
copies.
Yeah, we got to get these initial copies
to get
made.
out.
But he ran games in Tolus for like 5 or 6 years. So this is a world that is very established. Like this
is a Keith Baker world. This is
he's made it and he knows it. And so I love worlds like that because it's very I've
lived in.
Lived in is a great word. Great way to describe it. And so the 3rd edition is out there, the 3rd edition version of this, and to bring it into Numenera and stuff is kind of exciting too. It got me thinking of just system neutral game settings and how the more that I read game settings, like I'm reading Invisible Sun, and that is the city of Satyrine is the game setting, and the actuality is what they call it. And I really like that, and I really want that to kind of just, could anyone play a game there? Like it would just kind of be fun if you could, and if you wanted to, you really could reflavor it for like, it's not a Keith Baker, it's a Monty Cook game. So I was about to say you could reflavor it for Numenera, but like D&D is so specific to this like European fantasy kind of thing. I don't know. It's kind of interesting, but I like the system neutrals, I guess. And I'm reading Ultraviolet Grasslands, which is, and I put the book over there. I should have it here so I could hold it up. But Ultraviolet Grasslands is an RPG plus a campaign setting of this futuristic wasteland kind of Mad Max style thing. And that's another one where I'm like, I don't care about the system anymore. Like, okay, you have dice and you make checks, but I love this world. And it's so fun to read about these NPCs and how they interact. And then and then you as the DM sits down and you're like, okay guys, I want you to like pick a faction and play around with this. And then as they're picking factions and moving around, the story comes out. And I feel like Ghosts of Saltmarsh was like that, where like they were picking sides while we were playing the game, and then the game kind of flourished out of that. And 100%, and this was system neutral, but the Dark of Hot Springs Island, because that one, no monster stats, no dice rolling, no anything, but everything was very descriptive. And so you would find a magic item that's like, when you blow this whistle, it shoots a cone of fire out. But me, the DM, I got to decide, like, now is that enough to light a cigarette, or is that enough to burn down a tree?
Yeah, 2d6.
And it was up to me. Or do I want to tie that item to, like, their Arcana stat or something like that? And so it's been a lot of fun to, I don't know, I like system neutral stuff like that. I think it's really cool.
Yeah, and I like the idea that you could write something like that and just say, hey, I don't know what game you're playing, what game mechanics you're playing, but insert your goblin here, or
exactly,
or insert your low level whatever here that you want in there, and that makes this whole thing work. And now let me tell you all about these cool factions. And I think that's the one thing that I've noticed about the game worlds that really capture me. The ones that have done the most or the best, I think, are the ones that do introduce enough factions where the players are tempted by several and not just one, right? I think too often when I run my games, it's really cut and dry, but it's really maybe even railroady in some ways, where there's kind of the good group and a bad group, right? Not much other depth than that. I've not really run too many campaigns where there's some good guys, there's some bad guys, there's some neutral guys, there's this other good guys, there's this good bad guys, there's these bad guys, there's, and now you players decide what you want to do. Like, so many choices that they have to kind of start to really think. And I think that would be a fun way to start pushing my DM skills, is to start offering that type of complexity in a game, in a campaign world, and see where that takes me and see where that goes. Because I've seen it from the really good books. The stuff that Monty Cook is writing has stuff like that. The stuff that Keith Baker's writing, he has stuff like that. I'm sure if Perkins got his own thing, you would have that. Or Mercer puts in lots of cool factions that you can kind of decide, do we want to work with them? Do we not want to work with them? All of them are good in some way. All of them are bad in some way. All of them, there's like so much stuff going on. And I think that is the telling tale of a really good thought out world, and something I still haven't quite got myself yet, but now I know I want to kind of move that direction. Like, what do you think about, you just spent a month creating your world.
Yeah.
I assume you had a bunch of factions at some point you went over and started creating.
Yeah, well, I'm sure because you watched it, so.
All of it, every single minute.
Nothing. Anyway, I did have a lot of fun building that, and it became apparent about midway that you need to do that. You need to have the different, and I say the word factions, but just like, that could be a thieves guild, that could be, the knights. It could also just be the rich versus the poor, or like the North versus the South, or something like that. But you need to have something that, like, I stand behind this, or I have conflict with this. And personally, I think the most enjoyable, like, factions and stuff is the most enjoyable factions are the ones where nobody's wrong. Like, I can sympathetically see the point of view of the East, and I can sympathetically see the point of view of the West. They each have valid points, but one of them has to go down, And so it's like, which one am I going to join? And like the Mages Guild, they have a right to this, and the other one, they have a right to that same area, and they're arguing about who gets it, and there's not a compromise, really. And so I think that unwinnable situation, it doesn't sound good when I say it as an unwinnable situation, but I think that makes the most interesting stories, because your players have to choose, like, oh my gosh, do I want to lose my left hand or my right? Well, I don't want to lose either of them. Well, you got to choose one, So that's really fun.
Yeah. Or I have done this quite a bit, where I've made them choose the lesser of the evils. but you really only had evils to choose from, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, the only thing that's going to help you is that you're in the middle of the war. The one I was doing in Revenar was you're in the middle of the war between the demons and the devils. Go ahead and pick a side. They're both completely terrible. You decide which one you want to work with. And I love that. And I enjoyed getting that whole storyline to kind of unthread throughout our sessions. So that one's been fun. But I like what you're talking about too, where what happens when they're both good.
Mm-hmm.
They're both kind of valid.
Yeah.
Oh, now what?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I kind of like that too. So it's interesting that I still love reading campaign books. I still love looking at Kickstarters that pop up and say, here's our world, and here's the things that make us excited about that world, whoever the writers are, the creators are. And when you can see that in the writing and you can feel their enthusiasm in this thing they're creating, that's not just a product most of the time to them. It's like a passion. There's something there that they spent a lot of time thinking about and wondering, well, how are trolls handled in my world, and why are they the way they are, and where do they live now, and what do they do when this happens to them, and that kind of thing. They've spent that time thinking about those kinds of things, and they only put so much in the books, but you can tell there's a big deep world there, ready to be explored, and I love that.
Yeah,
love reading about it.
Just last week we were talking about
Albert
Forbidden
Seed
Lands.
saved the soul.
And how much I thought Forbidden Lands was a really cool world and system, and it's very fantasy based. But that same system they're using, and this is Modifius Entertainment. They made a Nordic horror game, very Call of Cthulhu-esque, but using like Norse gods and stuff. And that's called Vaesen, if I'm saying it correctly. But Nordic horror role playing, and that's another game that I'm like, I want to play that so bad. But
yeah.
Anyway.
And I'm still, like, Kickstarters pop up, and I'm still funding them. I'm still supporting them where I can because they're interesting, whether they're for 5e or whether they're for Numenera or whether they're for Apocalypse. Maybe they're neutral, like Hot Springs Island. You can play whatever. I love reading them. I love still seeing them. So,
boy, that for not having much to talk about,
no
we talked
news.
about a whole bunch. Do you want to do a random monster? Yeah. Do you want to do a random monster generator?
Yeah.
All right.
We call this section the College of Monsters now. That's what's been showing up in our notes.
Yeah.
This used to be Bardic Inspiration, which I think was a really fun and probably will come back in the future segment of our show. But now we've switched it over to College of Monsters, and Jordan did a cool little dice rolling mechanic and graphics.
The random monster generator is currently working, and I think it's almost done. Ha! See, I did it wrong, guys. It's not 4.
Get Lich again?
I gotta go. My min is 12 and my max is 316. Let's generate a number.
316.
Number 70. So then we turn to page 70 of the DMG.
Everybody, get your
DMGs out. Come play along with us.
Your MMGs, your monster manuals.
Thank you.
MMs.
Your MMGs. Oh, this is a good one. This is a barbed devil and a bearded devil. Both of them on page 70 of the monster manual. We're going to zip over here, and I think I can go like... where is it?
Yeah, barbed devil.
I gotta go this way. Okay, so if we go over here, I can look for barbed devil.
You said page 70? Very cool.
Fantastic. So the barbed devil, here he is. This is creatures of unbridled greed and desire. Barbed devils act as guards to the most powerful denizens of the Nine Hells and their vaults. Resembling a tall humanoid covered in sharp barbs, spines, and hooks, a barbed devil has gleaming eyes that are ever watchful for objects and creatures it might claim for itself. These fiends welcome any chance to fight when victory promises reward. Barbed devils are known for their alertness and make them difficult to surprise. They are attuned to duties without boredom or they attend to duties without boredom or distractions. And they use their sharp claws as weapons to hurl balls of flame at foes that try to flee. I think this is what I summoned in my Wildmount game, which is very exciting.
I feel like you did, yeah. the bearded one, right?
No, it was the Barb Devil because he was hurling fire and stuff, and we were
CR5.
Yeah, that's a good one. I made a pact with him. It was a lot of fun, and then I think I went against it. Like I was like, and by the way, I'm not going to live up to that bargain, or I cheated him. I cheated him out of something. I don't remember, but
yeah,
it was fun.
Both devils.
So I'm going to focus on the Barb Devil, I guess, because I don't know. We got stuff to talk about, but I think a Barb Devil, because they're greedy, they guard vaults. I was reading Tome of Beast 2 the other day. Mm-hmm. Have you checked out that at all?
Not 2. I still have Tome of Beast 1.
So I still
need to get Tome of Beast 2.
So friend of mine, not necessarily friend of the show, I don't think she watches, but Celeste Conowitch, she made a demonic frog that is an archdevil of the Nine Hells. And I think his name is the Collector. And this frog was an ordinary frog that fell into the river Styx and got mutated by it and then became a fiend afterwards, and is very likes to capture people and collect things. So I imagine that he would have a very extensive vault collection, and maybe the Barb Devils are that. So he could be the one that is higher up. But specifically, is a Barb Devil guarding something? Somebody in chat, Gary, had a really good point in chat saying, I wonder if their quills might be useful to wizards. And that's an aspect that we haven't really talked about a whole bunch, is the harvesting monsters for
the crafting purposes.
For crafting purposes. Yeah. I really need the toe of, a behemoth or something so that I can do this thing. So. Mm-hmm.
I like Barb Devil. I think the one thing that would add to it that just by looking at that picture, you have the barbed hide skill that if you're getting hugged or you're getting grappled, it's going to do some damage to them. But I like this idea that those barbs might extend every other round, maybe out to 10 feet and hit people or something. And they're moving around, or they're able to kind of throw a sneak attack or maybe a reaction attack or maybe a bonus action attack every now and then to throw out some, to keep your players on your toes, right? These barbs are really there, or they can even pull them out and throw them. Or I was thinking too, if you want to go a little bit visually different, you could stick with the Barb Devil name, but what if all the barbs and stuff were weapons that were pierced into it? So it's like all these swords and spears and arrows and things, and it uses those as to keep it safe, because you don't want to get close to anything with all that sharp metal around it. And it's kind of like its own armor, but its body's not hurt by those things. Because actually, I think that's part of it, right? They can't be hurt by non-magical weapons. Yeah. So it's like they just put them in there to make themselves like a porcupine almost. Like that. I was like, oh, cool. You could really do some cool ideas with that. Different things sticking out of the skin, whether they elongate, whether they can be pulled off and thrown, whether they can be projectiled in some way. So you have some room there as a dungeon master to tweak a Barb Devil in case your players know, oh, I know what a Barb Devil is. We played this before, and you could get, but you'd be like, that's the one you know of, but what about this one? Add something into it. Would you have him talk? Would you have him be your big bad guy? Is this a lieutenant? I'm feeling like this is like a henchman, a lieutenant, maybe like a tertiary objective for the players to kill, but I don't know, is he running the main bad guy of your campaign? Are you leaning that way? How are you feeling?
So I was just thinking of Spike from X-Men, and I spelled it wrong, and now that I'm Googling it, Spike I think might have been an X-Men that was created just for the show X-Men Evolution. I don't know if he was in the comics. I'm trying to think.
Oh, that could be for the cartoon.
Oh, maybe he was in the comics, yeah. But he was in the X-Men Evolution cartoon, and he was a mutant that could grow bony spikes out of his body and shoot them and do things like that. So that got me thinking, what if your campaign is there is a guy that was possessed by this demon, and so he's slowly growing spikes, or that's becoming a power that manifests itself, and you're hired to figure out what's going on with this random guy that's causing problems, and maybe the whole campaign is trying to find this kid and help him. Help him before the demon can like take over. And then you know, your objectives are, we have to extract this demon, or if the child dies, then you have a demon to fight, kind of a thing. But either way, you have to defeat this Barb Devil, you know, this, and I think that could be fun. And so inadvertently, he is the big bad guy. But let's say you figure out and you stop that by level 5 or 6, then it's, well, who put that guy in there? What's the bigger, you know, plot? And then you could go further on with that. And I like that idea. So that could be a lot
of fun.
Or
the campaign, how do you separate the kid from the
exactly,
devil?
Yeah.
How do you...
And so it's not, we can't attack him because we'll hurt the kid. You know, and
you have
possession's
to contain him.
hard like that. Yeah. And so you have to figure out like, well, what do we do? And so then it's not, I can hit it with my sword till it's dead. You have to figure out something different, and lots of research. And I like things like that. I think it could be a lot of fun.
Yeah. Or a patron has given you this job. They're saying, hey, I have this ward. This has happened to them, and I need you to take them to Mount Doom to fix him. So you need to go on your 25-week journey, you know, to get to where they can break the pact of the demon, you know, or whatever, or the devil in this case. Yeah. I like it. So you could go a couple of ways. This could allow you to take your campaign to any of the 9 hells at that point, because I assumed you will find barbed devils in all kinds of layers of hell.
I think Mammon is one of the archdevils, and he is the one that is of greed. And so it would fit the barbed devil theme and stuff. Maybe you have to find the like 11 vaults of whatever to gather supplies that will allow you to take down Mammon and, you know, reforge the 9 hells or something.
Yeah, so you could get a little planes walking going on if you want to do that. Get sucked into one of those areas. Maybe a portal has opened accidentally, and maybe it starts out pretty big and it's slowly shrinking, but over a week or two, that portal stays open and things pour out of it until it finally collapses on its own. And you're a party that's there to contain as much as possible things that are slipping through that portal from the hells and barbed devils, and you know, these things are popping out, and that could be one of the things that you have to deal with. I like that it's in the mid-range. Challenge 5 is something that you're gonna run a campaign that has party members taking on challenge 5 stuff. Like sometimes we might talk about a challenge 21 creature or whatever, and it's like, well, how many of us have ran campaigns where our characters are high enough to take on a, you know, that high of a creature? But we all have, I think, have run campaigns where we're in that area where you could probably bring in a CR5 creature, and that could be a big bad that your players have to band together to fight.
Yeah, so. No, that's a really good villain for an early game. Yeah, you know, and then it's supernatural, and it's like, what? And then all of a sudden, you know, you attack it, and you're just like, guys, my fire doesn't hurt it, or my weapon doesn't hurt it. And you're like, we gotta go find some what's the word I'm looking for? Like silver. We gotta get silver weapons, and that's a whole nother quest, and that could be a lot of fun. So. Awesome possum. Well, Lucian,
magical darkness doesn't impede the devil's dark vision. Magic resistance. So it's good stuff. Good stuff.
Lucian, how's Dungeon of the Mad Mage going? What's she doing?
We're on level 4 finally. The Xanathar attack has been completed. We have been told that we can just kind of continue on. That part of the storyline doesn't have to necessarily involve us about why Xanathar decided to mass attack Waterdeep, although it may come back up later on as another side tangent or something we get involved in. But we're back to dungeon delving, which is good. So we're back to going through tunnels,
get rid of all that
caves and
war stuff. I just want to go see what's on this fourth floor.
We just want to go bash some heads and get some treasure. That's what I'm in. I want the XPs and the GPs, and that's it. I like that we're getting closer. I'm excited to see a couple more levels on this character build that I'm running. Arcane Archer combined, if you did a good roll or you got a good dex to start with, and you combine it with Sharpshooter, is just a fantastic combination of a character. So I've really loved that. I think the Dungeon Master definitely hates it. He's in chat because it's typically pretty consistent, hard-hitting damage, right? And it's just coming from the Sharpshooter and having enough bonus to offset that minus that you get to it to still hit most times. It does suck when you miss though, because I did a action surge, and I thought, oh, I'm going to help my party out, and I get 2 more attacks, and then both arrows miss anyway. So then you're like, oh, all right, well, that was a waste of an action surge. I didn't get anything done. So every now and then you feel like, you miss that. But when those arrows are hitting and they're hitting hard, you're just like pumping the damage out. So I really like it's really fun. And I love the idea that I'm playing an Aarakocra, one of my favorite races from back in the 80s when I saw it in the I think I saw it in the Fiend Folio is where I saw Aarakocra, and always thought, I want to be one of those as a player character. Just like I saw the Gith Yankee, and I thought, I want to be one of those as a character.
Yeah.
So I got to eventually make a Gith Yankee.
I have a Gith Yankee Arcane Cleric that I really want to play. So
yeah, a build that you've been looking at.
Yeah. It's sitting in D&D Beyond, just waiting to be played. But I'm like, it's not the right time.
So that's our fun Tuesday night game, and it's great. It's over on Danimals. Our digital dungeon master from Down Under is our Australian dungeon master who runs games for us pretty much every week. So that's been fun. But what about Jordan? Did Jordan get any Dungeons and Dragons in?
I did. I played my Wildmount game on Saturday.
Joshe,
the Conjuration Wizard. It was funny. So I wanted to talk about something that I thought was fun is the more I play Joshe, the Conjuration Wizard, the more I was like, I really want Action Surge, because there are so many little maneuvers and stuff that I'm like, oh, this would be cool if I could do this. But to set it up and then to wait a whole round and then to cast the next spell, it just doesn't flesh out very well. And so I was like, man, I really need Action Surge. But then I was playing that basic fantasy game. I think I talked about it 2 weeks ago or so, which is like a really stripped down early version of BXD&D that's open source. And they had a way of doing initiative that I had never played before, and I wanted to see if you had heard of it, called Popcorn Initiative.
Nope.
Yeah, so let's talk about
Tell
Popcorn
me about
Initiative.
this, though. This sounds good.
So, collectively as a group, nobody rolls initiative. You collectively decide who goes next. And everybody in the group has to have a turn before the person can go again. So, if let's say it's me, you, and a monster. So we just decide, Jordan, you get to go first. So I attack. And then I say, you know what? I want Lucian to go next. So then Lucian, you attack. And then you, because there's only 3 of us, me, you, and the monster, you have to let the monster go. So then you let the monster go. So then the monster attacks. And now because the round has reset, the monster gets to go again. It gets to go first. So because of how you choose it, certain characters can have 2 actions if they go last. Kind of back to back. And I was like, that's really fun. So I was thinking about that, and I'm like, I need to convince my DM to do this so that I can be like, all right, guys, make me go last so I can cast Grease and then fire, and he'll like burn up, and it'll be so cool. Something where you can set up an action to go beforehand. But the way we played it was really fun. And there's a fun strategy behind it too, because you are like, oh, like I want Lucian to go because he'll move and he'll attack with his arrow, which will push the monster back 10 feet, allowing me to hit it with Eldritch Blast, which will push it into the lava or something. And there could be a lot of fun like that. The unfortunate side of this is you just throw initiative out the window. So the people who like initiative and the people who have put like points into initiative, like feats and stuff, it's like, those are all
advantage on initiative.
Yeah, there's no reason to have it. But it's really fun. I liked it and the guys that I was playing with, they were like, I love Popcorn Initiative. And I'm like, yeah, I do too. I play games. I know what that is. Had no clue, but it was a lot of fun. So,
yeah.
But no,
I didn't know that was the name of it. That's interesting.
We came to, it might've been just their slang for it, but they all seem to know that it was called Popcorn Initiative. But we came to a very climactic battle. I don't think any of us knew that it was a big climactic battle, but
stumbled into it.
Yeah, the big guy that we've been chasing for so long, he was there. And we took him out. But as we took him out, there were 2 crates. And we opened the crate, and there was his cloned body on the inside. And we're like, oh, great. So as he died, his clone popped up out of one of the things, out of one of these crates, and looked at us and then teleported away. And I guess another point that I wanted to make is I specifically did not take Counterspell because I don't like Counterspell, and I didn't think Josh A would necessarily take Counterspell because he's not about countering things, he's about conjuring things and stuff like that. But this is the one situation where everyone at the table was like, Jordan, you're the wizard. Like, you could have countered that. We could have ended the campaign. And I'm like, I'm sorry. And then, so I don't know. I was thinking, should I take Counterspell? Like, does 5th edition need Counterspell? Like, does 5th edition need Counterspell? Because now the game is not done. Our poor dungeon master is like, well, I guess we're playing for another whole round of sessions, because he's like, I don't know. Like, I was planning that this was the last session, but we didn't kill him because... Then
don't teleport away. That's your...
Well, I guess right. That's on him. That's on him.
Yeah, don't give him teleport.
Don't have a clone. What are you thinking?
What are you thinking?
It was really funny though, because they really value Counterspell, and I think it's I shouldn't say this, but I shouldn't apply assumptions on them, but I think it's because of Critical Role, and Counterspell was so beneficial to stopping the season 1 boss, and it was very necessary. But I look at it as just like, it's just a weird like crutch. I don't like it. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I like themed magic users, themed wizards. I like that you're digging into the conjuration theme and you're sticking with it. I went with mine where I wanted to go all lightning based on one of mine, and I caught some flack about, why don't you have fireball, or why don't you have this? And I'm like, sorry, I'm a lightning dude. You know, my guy's all about lightning. If it's got lightning in it, I got it. And then I did my war wizard, which was about raising shields. That one I had Counterspell, I could bring up shield bubbles, and I could bring up slow, but he was all about countering mages. So he was a war mage meant to counter mages. And in that case, to me, it felt, even though I hate how Counterspell works too, that felt right for his spell list versus like what you're doing. I like a conjuration one, or I like one where they're raising golems, or they're using elementals, or they're using creatures to fight for them. That's a specific type, and they might not have those things. I like the idea that you lean into a theme of your character and stick with it. That's just me. I love that.
So and I was, and it's we definitely play with a min-maxer, but he has fun with that. And he doesn't necessarily complain that
you only have one min-maxer? I played a group of min-maxers. Every one of them are a min-maxer.
And I like being efficient, but at the same time, I'm just like, no, I don't think, because I didn't take Fireball either. I was like, no,
I'm like on their third multi-class in this group, trying to get that one special ability that's going to make everything perfect.
That's funny.
For their hodgepodge of a build they've got going that makes sure they have every ability they need.
Awesome. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is our show. Thank you so much for coming out.
New show.
All the way to 3 minutes after the hour. Next week, we're going to have a guest on. And his name is Harlan. And Harlan is part of the Better Than Heroes Twitch channel. They play a Spelljammer game. And I was on their Spelljammer game a while ago, and he contacted me, and I was like, you're awesome. We should have you on the show. And so he's going to come, and we're going to talk about Spelljammer. We're talking about 5th edition in Spelljammer. And it should be a lot of fun. So take care. Be back next week for a very special episode of Saturday Morning D&D Show. Anything else we need to do before we take off, sir?
Hey, make sure you guys go out there and like this on the podcast sites too, because I really think that this is a great kind of show to listen while you're driving somewhere, you're on a trip, you're doing things. That's the kind of show we always want to make. So even though you don't have green, angry Hulk Jordan, visually, if you listen to this show, you wouldn't even know he's green, angry, and hulkish right now. So it'd just be a cool, fun show. Specifically,
the big ones like Spotify and Apple Podcasts. If you rate us there and leave a comment, it helps like you wouldn't believe. 100%. So just search for Saturday Morning D&D Show on any of your favorite podcast things, and you will find us there. Leaving a comment is the best way to do a review. I guess is what I'm asking for. So, and it could be just like thumbs up, Angry Jordan, go. Thank you guys so much. We'll see you next week with another Saturday Morning D&D Show. Bye.